independent front suspension, Volvo dynamic steering, the fuel-saving system known as IC, and telematics gateway. In short, it's a truck with cutting-edge technology.
Well, Steve, here we are on a beautiful sunny Sunday morning in Brisbane. In a short while, according to our instructions, we're going to have to get up the road to Toowoomba in the F8 700. But first, we've got to get all this gear in the cab, and I've chosen it specifically to reflect a typical Aussie driver. That's personal grooming kit, small potted plants, and a large jar of Vegemite just for you. Have I missed anything out?
Mate, the only thing that's missing is your wheelchair and my dog.
Well, it's a Globetrotter cab. It's the new F8. We're going to get it all in there. Let's go.
Give me one day.
There you go.
That'll go in the top locker, right at the back. Perfect made for it. OK, Steve, let's have the bedding up next.
You make sure you're comfortable up there, sweetheart. Mate, my grandmother doesn't have this much gear.
Well, hopefully your grandmother's not joining me in the truck.
No, she liked the truck. I'm not sure about the company.
Thank you very much.
There's nothing wrong.
There's no shortage of room in there, is there?
Well, you know what? Since they've made that windscreen a little less raked, they've ended up with a cubic metre inside more space, and it really shows, particularly when you're moving outside and inside the cab. Vegemite for me, crisps for Steve, and our potted miniature cactus.
Having loaded all our gear, and with me wearing my new Aussie hat, we're now leaving sunny Brisbane and heading into rural Queensland, where we'll have our first stopover at Toowoomba.
So finally, Steve, we've got out the clutches of those camera crew, and we're doing what we like best, which is being out on the road with a mate in a nice truck.
We're driving in the Volvo F8 with 700 horsepower, the top-of-the-range model for the Australian market.
Steve, the one thing I've come to realise about Australia is that it's a land of extremes. Extreme heat, extreme cold, extreme loads and extreme roads. That's quite a cocktail for transport operators and drivers to learn to live with.
It takes a unique truck to survive in this country, and it takes a unique driver to make that truck perform at its best. We can start in north of Australia where it's 50 degrees and move to the south of Australia in one trip where it can be extremely cold and wet and even ice and snow. So yeah, we have it all.
From the inside, an F8 looks pretty much the same as it is in Europe. Outside, there are clearly some big differences. Monster fuel tanks to cover those massive distances that Australian truck drivers have to cover. Big AdBlue tanks too, for the SCR, to ensure that the emission standard system works all the distance. Coming down under to drive F8 has reminded me of previous experiences of new F8. And the thing that stands out for me is the quality of steering. It's a truck that it goes where you point it and it stays where you point it. There's none of the seesaw action on steering wheels that you found on trucks of yesteryear. The steering on new F8 is incredibly precise. Steve, I notice you're not wearing that other hat. Do you think I can persuade you to wear that hat?
Mate, you have more chance of getting me a ticket to the moon than me wearing that hat.
After a long day of filming, we're now approaching our first stopover in Toowoomba, where Steve and I draw straws to see who gets to spend the night in the FH cab. And the lucky winner is...
Well, it's coming up for 10:30 and I'm looking to bed down in the new FH Globetrotter cab to make sure I'm nice and toasty. I've got a lovely duvet, I've got a fantastic mattress, and I've got my Qantas pyjamas. So if you'll excuse me, I'm now going to go to bed. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Well, I had a good night's kip in the F8 I'm just finishing off my breakfast al fresco. Steve, today's assignment involves you doing all the hard work. We've got to take 3 trailers, hitch them up to the mighty F8 and you're going to show me what it's like to drive a road train. How about that?
No worries at all, mate.
Anything I need to do?
Just put your hat on and let's get going.
My favourite. What exactly is this combination then?
This is what's called a B triple, Brian. It's basically 2 short trailers and 1 long trailer hooked onto the back of it. Overall length is about 36 metres. In weight terms, these combinations are allowed to run to about 90 tonnes. At the moment, we're at around 82 or 82.5 tonnes.
Well, it's still quite a handful.
It's a big truck. Yeah, it is a big truck.
We're now heading down the road to Millmerran to see just how well the FH16 performs as a B triple combination.
Steve, you and I have been in this business probably more years than we care to remember. So how did you get into it?
Oh, it goes back a long time. I'm a journalist by trade, but I didn't like journalism very much. But my grandfather had trucks when I was a little boy, and I used to go to work with him, and I think it all started from there. And I've progressively had more injections of diesel into the veins over the years, and I think I wouldn't know what to do now without trucks in my life. I wouldn't think. It's what I do.
Way down inside my bones. Hey, you better sit back down.
So you were telling me, Steve, we were grossing close to about 80 tonnes. How's iShift coping with that?
Oh, mate, you won't have to convince me of iShift. I think iShift's one of the best automated transmissions in the market, and I mean that quite sincerely. These two are made for each other, these engines and these transmissions. They're both Volvo units, so they're perfectly integrated. Yeah, and it just makes the whole exercise extremely smooth.
Well, you look pretty comfortable in that. You comfortable in that seat?
Mate, I'm very comfortable in this seat.
That's the only life I know.
Steve, I know you and I have often talked about the increasing use of safety equipment on vehicles, and you were telling me recently when you visited Volvo just how impressed with the amount of effort they put into safety.
To be honest with you, Brian,